Folks, welcome to the big show. And I'd like to think I had something of a big weekend, and we got a big show because of that. I spent a big portion of the weekend in Des Moines, Iowa. And the occasion was Donald Trump at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Now, Donald Trump had been pointing towards this particular event, this rally in Des Moines, October 9th, as the time when he might tell us that he's running for president again. And I strongly suspect he will tell us that. He didn't, I don't think. I didn't stay for the entirety of the 1 hour and 43-minute agonizing speech given by the former president. I didn't stay for the speech, but I did make the trip, and it's about a 4.5-hour drive. And I would point out for our new listeners down in the, state of Illinois, I took the southern route, mostly in deference to the fact that Illinois has legal marijuana dispensaries.
Hooray.
So I took the southern route. You got to drive south to get to Des Moines. So I did. And I arrived probably about 3 hours before Donald Trump took the stage. And it wasn't my first Trump circus. I've been to a few. I've been to more than a half a dozen. And I was kind of pissed when I got to town, not just because I'm driving to Des Moines in the middle of the Badger game. Go Badgers. They crushed Illinois, finally beat somebody this weekend. But I'm driving into Des Moines, Iowa, not for the first time, probably about the third time I'd covered political events there. And why was I mad? I forget why I was mad. I'll come back. I'm sure I'll retain some anger later in the show.
I normally would be able to fill it in for you, but I didn't get this part of the story yet.
Here's why I was mad. My credentials were denied.
Oh, geez.
Team Trump did not give me credentials.
Did they give you reason why?
Who cares? Who cares?
I'm more just curious if they actually had any protocol. They were just like, no, yes, no.
Just declined. And there was a lot of press at the event. So I'm going to assume the bleachers, the risers, the press jail was full. And I've been to plenty of Trump events before. And once you sign in, and I get to the event, and I like to make friends, fancy brand, I like to meet some people, I like to meet the front row Joes and Janes, the bottled blondes and the people that show up and in the 2016 campaign. And I followed, and I went quite a few Trump events around the country, and Bernie and Hillary and everybody else. But they sort of deadheaded. And, I would go to a Trump event, and I saw him through the midterms and through the 2020 elective cycle, although less events. But he'd go to a venue, and he'd have about 5,000, let's say. And then he'd claim, 25,000. We had to turn people away. Whatever. That was always my opinion. But I'd seen plenty of rallies of that size where Donald Trump, especially inside venues or airplane hangars, would put the press in the pen. And you were discouraged even from interacting with people on the, let's call it the rope line, the steel caged line. You weren't supposed to talk to the people. Once you were in that pen, they controlled you. You were the fake news media. And inevitably, Donald Trump at some point during the course of the rally is going to turn back and point the crowd towards you and turn their animus towards the journalists and the press and the media and super cool guys like me. So, it didn't hurt my feelings per se, although it pisses me off that, Trump's team didn't credential the greatest radio show ever.
That's why I got a little chip on my shoulder. They did not recognize you as media. That's really what it is.
Several times before.
Are you not on their Rolodex?
I
don't think they have a Rolodex. That's the thing.
Here's what I would say. I am, even right now, I'm sporting my Dump Trump t-shirt. And perhaps I've earned a reputation because I wore this to the RNC in Cleveland, and we broadcast there. And I wore this to Trump's inauguration, and we broadcast there, not specifically from the inauguration, but from the town that day. I didn't wear it to the Women's March. It was dirty the next day, so I wore clean clothes, wore a suit to the Women's March, sort of overdressed. Should have just found a pink hat. But I watched this dark character that is Donald Trump all around the country. Dom pointed out to me when we were at the RNC, and we were in the room when Donald Trump accepted his nomination. And I'm not saying that to brag so much as to tell you, I was there. I saw this rising fascist movement and this dark speech. And, let's not forget, even right up to the RNC, Republicans were trying to coup d'etat Trump's ass. They were trying to throw their nominee overboard. But anyways, Trump accepted the nomination. Hell, he was on stage damn near every night, if I recall. And we were there and the balloons fell. We were kind of up about the level where the balloons were falling, sort of the nosebleeds. That's where they put the credentialed media that day. And we did a straight to stream. We broadcast live, and it was sort of an eye-opening, ugly, dark moment in American history when he accepted the nomination. And we went out that night. We went out in Cleveland. The place, the source of this darkness was the Quicken Loans Arena right next to Jacobs Field. And in between, there was this expansive grass and this party. And, they had a very good band playing, but nobody was dancing. And nobody was smiling. There was no joy when Donald Trump was the nominee in Cleveland. And this is in 2016. But I got to tell you, there was joy in Des Moines on Saturday night. And maybe joy is not the right word, but it had a festive mood, this whole event. And let me tell you, it was eye-popping, the size of the crowd. This is a large crowd. I've been to big old elective rallies. I've been to Bernie Sanders' biggest electoral rally I'd ever been to. Bernie Sanders in New York City, in Washington Square Park. Sort of that fake Arc de Triomphe thing. And Bernie's giving the speech, and it's on effectively the New York University, NYU campus. I mean, you looked up and there were people, faces pressed up on the windows in the buildings. And you looked out in the park that night and it was a sea of humanity. And the crowd that night was estimated in New York City, 45, 50,000 people, something like that. And, I've been to Brewer games. I've been to lots and lots of live sporting events. And you see what it looks like when the crowd leaves and how big and what the size. And if you pack them together or if they spread out. And I like to estimate the crowds. And I believe the Des Moines Register on Saturday night thought the crowd to be about 25,000. And I got to tell you, I was in the sea. I was in the trees. I was in the forest with the people. But I would have guessed that crowd closer to 40,000. And Donald Trump came out on the stage, and Donald Trump claimed it was the biggest crowd ever in the Iowa State Fairgrounds history. I don't know. Maybe it was. But the crowd size was eye-popping, Fancy Brian. I mean, it was shocking to me how many people assembled on a Saturday night in Des Moines. And I get it. The circus is coming to town. It's like a WWE event.
Well, I was going to say that he used to do like one of these every week or so, and he's always doing them over and over and over again. This has been a while for people. And you yourself, you're not even a fan of Donald Trump, clearly, and you're driving from a couple states away. So I got to think, a bunch of maggots, from states away, at least that same circus or circular area came together to this one thing.
I met lots of people. And I can't tell you, I mean, there might have been people there from Chicago. I saw one lady wearing a Cubbies hat. And someone told me there was actually a Cubbies farm team down there in Iowa. So perhaps it was the local farm team. But most of the vast majority of all the people I talk to, and I go meet people at these events. I mean, I was in the crowd for hours waiting on Trump. I'm meeting lots of people. I'm talking to lots of people. I'm interviewing people. And they were from Iowa. This was reflective of Iowa. It was 50 shades of pale. I mean, it was all white people, maybe 10 people that were not lily white in the crowd of what I estimate to be about 40,000. Again, I didn't have vantage point. I was in the crowd, but I walked around and I tried to assess how big a crowd did I think this was. I think it was damn large. It was scary large. I didn't expect anything that large. So setting the stage, Saturday night in Des Moines, Iowa, it was angry. And a little more angry.
I thought you said it was party. It's party angry.
It's hard to explain sort of this.
Like soldiers on the eve of battle.
They were profane. They were festive. And there was this underlying angry current. Like the the inmates were running the asylum, Fancy Brian, and there was 40,000 of them. And I was there in the crowd, and I'm hanging out and I'm meeting people, and we'll tell you much more. And I'll bring you some exclusive sound, Crute sound. The people, at least some of them, that I interviewed at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. And I got to tell you, I came back a little fearful for our nation because there was a college football game going on. I drove past Iowa City. I drove past where, the University of Iowa is playing in Kinnick Stadium, a sold out stadium less than an hour away. At the very same time, 40,000 additional people are assembling to go see Trump on a Saturday night. So this wasn't the local football crowd. No, they were all at the football game. In fact, they had the football games on the scoreboard. They had big video screens. And it had the feeling of a tailgate party, this Trump event. In that regard, it was certainly festive. And I didn't see a lot of out-of-state plates. I saw a lot of Iowa plates, saw a lot of pickup trucks. And I talked to a lot of people, and it was like a family affair, man. They brought the kids out. There were lots of kids there. And my takeaway is we should be afraid. We should be a little nervous, and beyond a little bit nervous, this was an eye-opening event for me. I mean, I guess I'm glad I went, but I fear for our nation. If this is the sentiment, this is the embrace of Donald Trump, oh my God, man, we're in big trouble. I mean, this guy could do it again.